Hey, everybody. Hope you are well, all things considered. Um, this has been a pretty interesting, to say the least, interesting kind of year, the year 2020. All kinds of weird things and weird signs have been happening, including the happenstance talked about in the book of Revelation, where the key, the angel of the abyss, who had the key to the abyss, opened up the abyss, and as you know, all the hornets flew out of the abyss to inflict people with all manner of diseases, tragedies, and so forth. And personally, I think that's where we're at this point in time. And also, what I really want to talk about is the state of depression. Depression. I know a great deal about depression, having suffered from it for a number of years myself. Um, and I say that, but simultaneously, I realized that, based upon my conversations with so many people, depression is very widespread. I mean, it's, to put it metaphorically, it's as if it's in the very air we breathe. And people are trying to fight against it. They are struggling against depression and doing their best to put on happy faces, smiling faces, but behind that smiling face is a sunken soul. But I thought I'd give a little information, talk about a little bit how, in its own way, the Bible shows the origin of depression. And it goes back to the book of Genesis, in chapter 3. You all know in chapter 3, that's when the serpent appears on the scene to tempt the woman. And you're probably familiar with the story, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the point where I personally think the state of depression originated, and it all happened because of Adam's mindless disobedience to God's command. The Bible that I'm reading from is actually the Amplified Bible. But if you read chapter 3, verse 16, it says, "To the woman he said, I will multiply your grief." And after that, he goes on to talk about how the woman will bear children in pain. But before that, I will multiply your grief. Grief is basically a state of sadness, melancholy, if you will. And then he goes on to say to Adam, actually, he says the ground is under a curse because of you. The ground, meaning the place upon which you live, the area in which you live, the actual soil of the earth. is cursed. And then it goes on to say, in sorrow and toil shall you eat of it all the days of your life. So basically, he just told Adam, because of disobedience, in sorrow he shall eat from the ground of the earth for his whole life. So, for his whole life, he's going to be in a state of sorrow. What is that? That is depression. And then it talks about the ground being cursed. Chapter 3, verse 18. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground. So let's take a little bit closer look at that. I mean, we know because of certain situations and whatnot that thorns and thistles, even poisonous plants, grow in the ground of the earth. But there's a spiritual flip side to all these verses. And basically what it's saying, thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. It's actually talking about the man's mind, Adam's mind. And the thorns and thistles that it shall bring forth is none other than negative thoughts and hurtful emotions. Negative thoughts, negative emotions shall it bring to you, and you shall eat those plants of the field, which means you shall suffer from those negative thoughts and those negative emotions. So, in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, the Bible actually shows how depression originated. But nevertheless, I know that a lot of people out there, pretty much the majority of the world, let me just go ahead and be real with it. The majority of the world suffers from depression. I mean, keep that in mind as you go out into the world to do what you do, whether you go to work, whether you go to the grocery store, that rude checkout clerk, those people who look at you like they're staring in the thin air when you say hello and they don't say anything back. I mean, just all kind of little bitty hints you can see that people are suffering. People are suffering. Whether they're religious or non-religious, they're all suffering alike. And it's all because of disobedience. Anyway, thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel. Do the best you can, again, as you go out there into the world, having to deal with what you have to deal with, face what you have to face. And God bless.